never thought there was going to be a coup d'etat that day. Myself, I was working in the counterintelligence army, in charge of the area of the armed forces, and many of us from different political parties, we told the political parties that the coup d'etat was about to happen, and they never believe us. They said, no, the Christian Democrat is not happening, is not participating in the coup d'etat. MIR, MIR, the most the leftist, one, my friend that was from the Dirección Política, the Dirección Política, political directives, and in charge of the same area. I was in a less position in my own party about this task. But to him, they also told him that there was no coup d'etat because the Christian Democrat was not participating in the coup d'etat. And we told them, later we put together our experience with our parties, we told them, Arellano Stark is the one from the CIA, the right arm of Presidente Frey. He introduced the CIA, is in the disqualify the church, ¿cómo se llama? Los archivos desclasificados.
De la Comisión Church.
The declassified documents.
Right. Arellano Stark was one, Bonilla, Palacios, all these other generals were Christian Democrats, and we gave them the list of these people. Right. And they told, no, you are wrong. There is no coup d'etat because the Christian Democrat Party is not participating. Well, as we all know, the majority of the generals that gave the coup d'etat, made the coup d'etat in Chile, were Christian Democrats. And yes, the only one that wasn't was Pinochet, because Pinochet was before supporting Prats. General Prats was kicked out of the army forces and from the government. So in that situation, the coup d'etat fined millions of workers, where all the political parties believing that was not a coup d'etat that day, the coup d'etat was happening. And he had no preparation whatsoever to do anything about that day. So it was terrible, terrible. 10 o'clock, I remember in my Vicuña Maquena, Cordón Vicuña Maquena, everybody was without connection with the political parties and many decided, well, we have to go out of here because we are in danger that the militants were surrounding all the areas. They had cut off the
streets,
the downtown, the street, the avenues, etc. So, well, it was very sad. It was very sad that day because 12 o'clock, in many cordones, they decide to leave in order not to be massacred that day. But yeah, and 12 o'clock, the bombs start to be launched against the Palace of Government. And we all know what happened. Well, the Air Force took a lot of time to obey the order because most of the pilots they didn't want to do that. And it's very well known now that it was one pilot of the American Air Forces that was the one that took the plane that did the bombardment in the building of the government in La Moneda. Well, a big chaos that day, and not to mention what happened after that. The coming day was to kick out of the factories, to close the factories, to kick out the workers, to to imprison the workers. The 90% of the workers in Chile that were killed, the 90% of the people was killed in Chile, according to international workers organization, OIT, said that the 90% belonged to the workers that were participating in the general strikes in the mid-60s in Chile, and that participate in the industrial belt or workers' council. The repression was absolutely direct to the workers. Our nurses that work in the hospitals, in many hospitals, main hospitals in Santiago, saw the lorries full up with dead bodies of workers that they were taken there to be incinerated. Many of these nurses managed to take the ID card that these dead workers had in their pockets in order to later on let their families to have it, that to know that they were killed, they were incinerated, and all that. It was horror all over the country. Everywhere they were hunting, especially the working class. So that's what my first impression about the coup d'etat is.
And the government had brought Pinochet into the government, hoping that he would protect the government. But the United States government and U.S. military and the AFL-CIO actually had spent a lot of time planning this.
Sure.
Maybe, I mean, you talk, there were strikes, and maybe you can, Lisa, you can talk about some of these strikes that took place prior to the coup that were financed by the AFL-CIO through the CIA, and the effect that they did in trying to bring down the government in Chile.
Well, like Ernesto had mentioned before, and Ernesto was part of those strikes himself. So, I mean, he was part of, not the strikes, but he was part of the struggle to, in the industrial workers' councils, to counteract these shortages and these fake shortages, and these counteract the right-wing advance. He was there. I was only 11 years old when the coup happened, so I wouldn't be able to say firsthand exactly what happened. But a lot of things we found out later through the Church Commission and through the researchers and through Chilean exiles such as Ernesto and their testimonies basically confirmed that the truck owners, for example, conducted a strike in 1971 where they paid through AIFLD money, the AFL-CIO's entity, $50 a day in 1970s dollar for them to strike against the Allende government. That's one of the more notorious examples. But I'm sure Ernesto has many more examples of these corporate and management lockouts that they would do at these different companies, or else they would produce products. They would stop the line of production of products that were more affordable for people, and they would bring in the line of production of more expensive items to create the shortages and to create discontent among the population who couldn't afford those products. And so Ernesto can talk about that those were responses that the workers had during the Popular Unity government to be able to defend the government and to defend the people, the workers. Ernesto, siga adelante.
And so these worker councils that you were part of, Ernesto, why don't you talk about what they were? How were they organized, and what they did to protect the working class?
Yes. In the middle of the 60s in Chile, the Christian Democrat brought a lot of new industries with more high technology. And there, this new injection of young workers came into the branch of the working class. And then they started with wildcat strikes those days. Yeah. That is one previous thing. And during the campaign of the election campaign of the Popular Unity, they were created the Comités Sindicales de la Unidad Popular, trade union committees of the Popular Unity within the factories. That was a very good work that we did. And as you know, we won the elections with a lot of problems, but at the next day that Allende took power, I remember that in the committee of the province, the large committee, came all these trade unionists from the Comités Sindicales, trade unionists de la Unidad Popular, to tell us that they were occupying the factories. We said, what? Why? Because it's what Lisa was saying, they are stopping the line of production that are popular and cheaper for the other ones expensive, that is stopping the machinery, they are taking machinery towards Argentina, etc. So we took the factory. Oh, that's so. And we check it, and it was absolutely true in all those places. And then
I'm sorry, but I have this. This is the carnet of Ernesto are talking about. This is the real one.
The ID, yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And then we took it up to the political parties, and they told us, well done. And now you go and tell the bosses, the owners, that if they carry on doing these things, we are going to take all the industries towards the state-owned industry or social economy area, as we call it. So the first year, we didn't have any problem whatsoever with the economy in Chile. It's the best one. But then the contradiction within the government, the Social Democrat part made pressure that these committees, the Popular Unidad Sindical, union, they should stop. And they did it. And then the black market started to happen. And what was the main fight in Chile is that the program of the Popular Unity, Unidad Popular, was to take into the social area 253 monopolic industries in Chile to the social area. Something which the Christian Democrats from the day one start to fight back. And they imposed over Allende el Estatuto de Garantías Democráticas. I don't know if you understand that.
The statute of democratic guarantees or democratic rights, something like that.
And then those 253 industries were reduced to 91, right? Well, and then after they finished with the Comité de Unidad Popular Sindicales, within the industries, the black market started to flourish everywhere. The boycott and the one that Nixon predicted and wanted from the very beginning, we have to squeeze the Chilean economy, and we have to make it to scream, start to happen. From then, they were trying to do it, but the international boycott to Chile was already done by the United States, England, and all those imperialist countries. We didn't have no spare parts. We didn't have machinery to bring to Chile, etc. A lot, as you know, it happened in Venezuela. Well, and then is when the Workers' Council appear again. Then, when they see that they are producing a lot of goods, and when they go out to buy it, they have to pay 10, 20 times more. They say, no, that cannot be. And then they start to occupy the industries. And when this general strike that Lisa was mentioning, the transport, etc. My father was a trade unionist in the transport. He was offered by the Christian Democrat union leaders with a big briefcase full of dollars in order not to work those days. And those were financed also by the FEL-CO, etc. See, the money was
flowing. So your father was offered a bribe.
Exactly.
Offered a bribe.
Not only my father. All the other unionists that wanted to work. Well, they create El Mopare, that was transport that was working during that period. That they were a minority because they were no owner of the trucks. And the owner of the trucks, they gathered together all the trucks in big areas of land altogether. Many times we have to steal those trucks from them. We have to make some funny action in one side, and they run over there, and we took some lorries to put it to work, etc. And well, but it was useless because ellos tiraban Miguelitos. Lisa?
Miguelitos are like jacks, but they're like very sharp nails that are intertwined that stop cars and tear into the tires. They're like jacks that are nails.
And bombs, everything against the truck. But anyway, but now all the industries were in the hand of the working class. They occupy them, and they make them to produce like never ever before. I was working in the Instituto de Estadística y Censo, Institute of Statistics and Census.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sí.
That month, at the end, when I went back to work, and I look at the statistics, yeah, of production of the industry, it was up, despite all the chaos that it was on the street and everywhere. And when I look at productivity, it was even higher. I thought, no, productivity, I don't think we are going to have much productivity with the chaos that we had, but it was also higher than ever before. But well, and the Workers' Council or Cordones Industriales start to take not only the production in their hands, but also the distribution. Also, they start to make alliance with the town, with the city, with the population, with la población, yeah, and with the peasants. Very important. If the peasants shouldn't have work, if they would have stopped those bans, we were finished. Nobody talk about the peasants very much, but they also join us.
Muéstraselo.
No, you can see.
A ver, muelo más para atrás. Más para atrás.
Yeah.
¿El pato Donald está ahí? ¿Es el pato Donald?
No, it's very big.
Okay.
But look at this. I don't know if you can see, but
No se ve mucho, perdona, disculpe. No se ve casi.
I'm sorry, but I going to voice
2 years of challenge, it's called. 2 years of challenges, yeah.
And I go to my own museum of the
Un museo
this one is
fantástico.
very good here. Mira, dice Union of Miguelitos Factories. This is a right wing here, yeah, in the blog. Sociedad de Artesanos del Sabotage, yeah. Trabajadores del Mercado Negro, workers of the black market. Yeah, okay.
Now,
The humor is very important. Yeah. This, your son.
Uncle Sam for you.
Yeah.
Qué bueno que está ese, está buenísimo.
Oye, this
Now
guy
this-
has such a good
Now the industrial work,
Anyway,
I got a lot.
they will send us the pictures. Take pictures of all those and send
Toma
us.
las fotos, sí, para que se pueda
sí,
presentar.
we can send it to you, yes. Well, anyway, and so the industrial, like Cordones Industriales make all these large alliances all over the country. Well, we won the battle. We came back to work. Everything was calmed down. They couldn't push the militaries to give a coup d'etat. Yeah.
These are the. Esta es una portada de un periódico de un paro que hizo la CUT. Así
This is-
marchaban los trabajadores en esos años.
That's
sé si
how
se
the
alcanza a ver
workers
bien.
would march during those times during one of the marches of the CUT.
I see.
Yeah, pero eso de qué fecha es?
Esto es de antes del 11, un poquito antes del tanque 2.
Yeah.
Ah, yeah.
Okay.
The workers all were marching for asking for peace and no coup d'etat and all that.
Tengo aquí el del golpe.
Sí, sí. Well,
Well,
so I don't know if you have more questions. And the industrial belt of the industrial.
well, the
They
industrial
produce
workers,
spare parts that were forbidden to this. They start to create so many things. Yeah, like spare parts that we didn't have.
and the United States government had, and capitalists in the United States wanted to control copper in Chile, wanted to
Yeah.
control the mines. What kind of role did American corporations play in Chile?
Well, from the very beginning, they tried to arrange strikes in the copper mines, which they failed, of course. And the main reason for the coup d'etat in Chile is because we took the copper out of them, of course. And
So,
we
so
nationalized.
the copper mines were nationalized
Yes,
by the government of Chile, which
by
must
the
have,
government.
must have infuriated Anaconda and U.S. corporations who own those mines, that they believe.
Many of them.
Acuérdate de
También los sector tecnológico de telecomunicaciones también, ¿no? ITT,
IT, etc.
the telecommunications industry would
And the
ITT.
copper was very crucial because, well, and in the parliament, the votation
The votes.
was only one abstention. Abstention? ¿Cómo es? Yeah,
Abstention.
only one. Even the right wing had to vote in favor of copper nationalization in Chile because the pressure was so huge of the people of Chile that they had to, only one was abstention in the parliament. So, well, and they were financing, of course, to make the coup d'etat in Chile, that's for sure. Because Kissinger collect money for all the big companies that were out of Chile and kick out of Chile and from the American elite, Rockefeller, etc., etc. So they have a lot of money put in Chile, especially to recover the copper companies, which, incredibly or not, they only recover 12% with Pinochet. It's not because Pinochet didn't want to give them back the copper industry. It's because within the military themselves, there was a current that said, no, this is a strategic area, and we're not going to give it up. And they pressed Pinochet. That's why Pinochet has changed lately. Yeah, it's because he couldn't never go back, give back the copper to the Americans. But sí la concertación. With Pinochet, the private sector of the mining industry was in international or private sector, but with concertación, they had the 72% of the copper minings. United States, or again, Canada, Australia. But anyway, there are global companies that also they are mixed and all that. So very interesting also to think that what happened with the popular unity is the continuation and the improvement of neoliberal system in Chile. I can give you they complete the regulation and privatization of the education in Chile with concertación. With the Lagos, El CAE, they made the students to get a big loan from the state that was the guarantor to the banks, and then with that guarantee, they went to the bank and they were in debt up until today. And it's still the same thing. We can give you many others. Health also
And-
private side. See?
So
Yes.
you used to have health care for all in Chile, when you had national health care? Did you have public
Of
health care in
course,
Chile?
of course. Allende in 38, well, that was Minister of Health. He was the one who created
FONASA?
medicina preventiva, no, preventive, the National Health Service, Chile.
FONASA.
No, FONASA now is with the concertación.
Ya.
Sino que empezó con la
No, no.
medicina preventiva
Ah,
primero allá.
La medicina preventiva in 1938. Allende, Minister of Health, of Pedro Aguirre Cerda. From then we had this
Claro, eso
so-
del gobierno popular.
the
del
popular
Frente Popular.
government of Pedro Aguirre Cerda.
So in 1938, you
38.
had nationalized health care in Chile.
Well, it
Yes.
was more like preventive health. Yeah, preventive health care.
And under
Absolutely.
under the Allende government, what happened to health care?
Y bajo la,
Improved, of course. He improved it. Absolutely.
he's a doctor.
And he was the one who made the law of preventive medicine. So that was his his due of the crown.
And what was the law of preventive medicine? What was that law?
Pardon?
¿Qué era
What
la
was
ley
that law?
esa ley de medicina preventiva? ¿Qué es lo que cubría? ¿Cómo era que
Yes,
ayudaba?
yes. That the doctor called you, not you go to the doctor. The doctor had to call you, yeah, to make appointment to check you that you are in good health, right?
And they would go
And-
to your
and-
house? ¿Iban a tu casa?
They were local doctors.
Local
the
doctors,
community.
yeah. Mhm.
And you go to them. It's like very similar to the British that they have this local
National healthcare system, yeah. Mhm.
and like family doctors that are in the commune and in the local area. We copy very much from the English, British. And in 38, where it wasn't real in England yet. Yes, and they have liter of milk for all the children. A lot of ¿cómo se? Lo dije bien, ¿no? Medio litro de leche.
Half a liter, yeah.
Have a little milk. No, he was very concerned about the health of the Chilean people. And now it's yeah.
So when the coup took place in Chile, you're saying that they restructured the economy and they privatized the healthcare, they privatized the education, they privatized the pension plans. The
housing also.
So they privatized the housing.
The
What does
housing.
that mean? They turned over to private capitalists.
Yes, exactly. Because now before lo FL2, that was the state built very good. FL2, it was a law for construction of housing, very good one. That now this day have a very high prices because as they were so well built with patio, with many rooms or what I mean.
So you're saying that the working class housing, the housing for the people, that was built by Allende, by the workers of Chile under that government, was very good housing, and now it's been privatized and it cost a lot of money. Workers can't afford the same houses now.
Cannot afford.
In
No,
fact,
no.
there's also a lot of those houses withstood the earthquake of 2010, the 9.0 earthquake of 2010, because they were so well built. And also, I think he built, él construyó como 100,000 casas en esos 3 años, como 100,000 fueron, o más.
Yeah. No, 100,000.
In those 3 years,
200,000, but he couldn't finish.
yeah, he was planning on constructing 200,000, but he built at least 100,000 homes in 3 years.
And the housing situation in the United States today, there are thousands and thousands of homeless people living in tents. in San Francisco and New York and Los Angeles, all over the country, homeless people in tents.
Like in Chile today. Yeah.
The other thing about the housing it's interesting to look at is that in 2010, the earthquake that happened, a 9.0 earthquake, if it had not been for a law that Allende passed in 1972 in terms of the building regulations, for quality building regulations, if it had not been for that law, there would be, it's calculated that there would have been many more deaths as a result of the 2010 earthquake. It was that law from 1972 that Allende placed that saved people's lives in 2010.
And the issue of what the United States and the military dictatorship did to the industrial zones where these factories were. What happened to these factories? They arrested thousands of trade unions. They killed them. They put them in the stadium. They terrorized the unions. What happened to these industrial zones after the coup and the policy of neoliberalism in Chile?
Well, after kill the leaders of the trade unionists, it doesn't matter if you are leftist or whatever or not. They start to close a lot of factories. But on the other hand, there were about 300 and something, maybe more very good industries that they intervene, but and make them to devalue the prices, and they bought it for themselves. Cap, you name it, the steel company, the petroleum company, the electric company.
The military
now are there.
the
And
the
they
military
say that the state is bad, etc., etc. And they never had built any factory in Chile, and they started this process of deindustrialization of Chile.
but they also the military became a class unto themselves because they became the majority shareholders of these key industries. So they became a military and economic caste unto themselves.
So they became
and Lisa, remember, they got the 10% of the copper incomes.
Well, yeah, not only, it's not even the income, it's the actual revenue. It's not even the income, because income usually is after expenses. It's the revenue coming in. They get they have control over 1/3 of the Corfo, ¿no? De la cooperación de fomento de Codelco, no el Corfo, de Codelco, 1/3 of it, right? It's still state. So 1/3 of the copper in Chile still is state owned, and that's the revenue that comes from that. That's not even, we're not even talking about the expenses, but we're talking about the revenue is used to pay for the housing for the military, police, and like all the apparatus of the state of the armed forces of the state. The housing, they can get housing loans. They get fantastic pensions. They get special health care. And access to the best healthcare.
Their own hospitals.
They have their own hospitals. They created their own special caste, and they got it from the nationalization of the copper, actually, of the 1/3 that still belongs to the state.
And this policy of the United States of supporting a coup is not new. There have been many coups in Latin America. Brazil, there was a U.S.-supported coup. Argentina, there was a U.S.-supported coup. Guatemala, El Salvador. I mean,
all Central America.
And just recently, the last couple of years, there was a coup in Bolivia, supported by the United States to get the lithium. There was a coup in Peru. And so, do you think that this policy of the AFL-CIO and the U.S. government to organize and bring about coups in Latin America, it seems to have continued 50 years on. Nothing has changed in Latin America as far as U.S. intervention of trying to overthrow governments that may nationalize some of the wealth or threaten American control or European multinational control of the wealth of Chile and other countries.
Yes, but there is some difference now. When they really need to make a coup d'etat, they don't have any other solution, like in Peru, because in Peru the presidents were not lasting more than 2 years. Lately, there was a big crisis and the social movement on the street. And the problem is that we don't have a popular organization, political ones that could lead this upheaval that are massive in Peru. But the other thing that they're doing now, most of the time, well, in Chile at least they do it, is buying the politicians. It's cheaper to buy politicians that give the coup d'etat, yeah, than that make their image so bad, yeah, and they damage so much their image and make people more annoyed in the countries, and because Venezuela, they haven't been able to establish the coup d'etat there, right? And not because they don't want, they could, but they, Ecuador, they move their supporters. In Bolivia, they already did a coup, but Evo was able to come back, ¿verdad? And also it's there. Brazil, Lula is back, yeah. Colombia, the narco state of Latin America, the most corrupted, the more criminal. They kill 10 times more than in Chile or anywhere else in Latin America. And you have this incredible guy, Petro, that was a guerrilla man for 30 years, and who is saying today that when Allende was suffering the coup d'etat in Chile, he went up to the hills. He meant to say he went to get the guerrilla warfare. But after 30 years, he realized that it was most costly than what happened in Chile. And the election road is as important as the other. But of course, you have to take into consideration always the military defense of your government. And for sure, there must be sectors in the Colombian army forces that are supporting this. What happened to us? We have more than 50% of the army forces with us, according to Joan Garcés, the advisor of Allende in the government, this Spanish guy. When in his book about the Chilean government, go to the army forces chapter and the popular unity, he said, we have such and such a forces. So it's a combination. You can combine. Hola, ¿qué tal? You have combined legal ways with, of course, if you have to use the arms when it's absolutely necessary, you can have it too. But in Chile, we have it too. El tanquetazo, Lisa, you know, before there
was a practice run. They did a practice run in agosto fue?
No,
Junio, perdón, June of 73.
2 months before the final coup d'etat that was done by the Christian Democrat, this attempt was done by the right wing.
It was a practice run of the coup.
Sector of the military. And Pratt defeated them completely, and arrest them and kick them out of the army force. And he offered, he proposed to the government then to get rid of the 12% of Christian Democrat generals that were there. They were the only ones who were, and they were directly working with the CIA, that we know now by the archivos desclasificados. And they didn't take into consideration the Pratt's proposal. So it was not by a lack of support of the militants that we lost, but because of the bad decision that our government did in that part. But
Yeah.
doesn't justify the criminality, the brutality of the coup d'etat. That's something else.
En fact, ¿verdad que sí que tú me mandaste una carta, me mostraste una carta que escribieron los compañeros de de los cordones industriales Allende el 3 de septiembre,
Let's
¿verdad?
speak in English.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry. He sent me a letter that that
5 of September.
on the 5th, it was dated the 5th of September 1973, a letter that the Workers' Council sent to Allende, and where they're talking about how disappointed they are and how alarmed they are about the Allende's decisions regarding the latest developments. They also mentioned that even with all the shortages and all the problems and everything like that, the people of Chile in March 1973 gave him more votes. He won more votes. The Popular Unity government got up to 43% of the votes. And they denounced the fact that at that time, he says, the right wing has created such a big terrorist apparatus that is so powerful and so well organized that we know for sure that it must be directed by the CIA. They kill workers, they blow up oil lines, buses, and railway stations. They create lights out, how do you say, in 2 or 3 different provinces. Blackouts in 2 or 3 different provinces. Yes. They attack our leaders and the locales of parties. And are these people, have they been brought to justice? No, they haven't.
Apprehended.
Apprehended.
So they were getting away with.
They were getting away with all this. The fascists were getting away with this shit. Okay, we know the names of them. Los Pablos Rodriguez, Benjamin Mata. They have actively said openly that they are that they participated in this tanquetazo, in this June uprising of the military. They have the transport the truck drivers paralyzed the entire country, leaving workers without any kind of heating or food or any kind of medicine. Instead, what was going on was the workers themselves were being attacked by police. So in Frey and Jarpa and that were financed by the ITT, here they name it, they call openly for sedition against the government. So that's what the fascists were up to leading up to the coup. And the Workers' Council sent a letter to Allende about this.
And the ITT, International Telephone and Telegraph, was connected to the CWA. Byrne, the president of the CWA. How was the CWA involved in the coup in Chile at that time?
¿Tú sabes cómo estaba involucrado el Communication Workers of America o por lo menos los trabajadores de las telecomunicaciones? ¿O no estabas tú metido en ese ámbito?
No. I know that ITT was from the very beginning supporting with money, a lot of things, but that's all what I know from that area.
And that raises the issue of the role of the AFL-CIO and the CIA in Chile, because the books, all 50 years ago, the documents, the communication between the Chile generals and the United States government and the AFL-CIO, all that information still, a lot of it is buried and people don't know about it 50 years later. And there is going to be a conference education conference on September the 10th in Washington, D.C. at the Martin Luther King Library and a rally at the AFL-CIO on September the 11th, the day of the coup. And what do Chilean trade unions and workers want to see today on the 50th anniversary? To get justice, to get compensation? What do workers in Chile, what do they want to see as far as addressing the really crimes, labor crimes that took place in Chile 50 years ago and apparently are still going on because of the restructuring of the Chile economy and the neoliberal policies in Chile?
Yo voy a hablar sobre lo que quiere la gente en cuanto a reparación y te voy a dejar a ti con la cuestión del afectivo. ¿Ya? Okay, I'm going to take one point that which is what the people want today of reparation. We want justice, the truth, reparation, and that it will never happen again. And in reparation, it's one of the worst reparation in human rights that ever have been done after the massacre that the people in Chile have suffered. In Argentina was, I don't know, 10 times or better than in Chile. In Chile, you still have the torture, the people that torture, walking free on the street. We created el Comité contra la Tortura, el Comité Ético contra la Tortura. Hicimos un gran trabajo. We made a very good work. We managed that Lagos create this commission, Vales, in order to inquire about what happened with torture, because a lot of things were touched, but torture, they were not touched in that area. So we managed, with Helmut Friends, a Lutheran bishop from Germany, to press Lagos to open this investigation, yeah, which we did. And the Valles Commission, and my committee, the Comité Ético contra la Tortura, managed to mobilize more than 50,000 people that were tortured, which is very difficult, Steve. When once you have been tortured, you don't want to talk about that anymore. I mean, it's a trauma, very powerful one. It never goes away. But we managed that more than 50,000 people came to this commission to declare, to make the statement about that when they were tortured and who did it. The conclusion of this commission was excellent. He was a priest who had this commission about torture and political imprisonment. Well, it gives me a lot of anger. And Lagos created a law, 2 laws, 50 years of secrets of the conclusions of this investigation that was very good by this commission, and not to pass over to the justice to those who were being identified as the one who made the torture. For us was, I mean, until, well, today I know that the news Corte Suprema finished with this self-amnesty that they create for them and the secrecy and all that. So maybe I'm going to be still alive to carry on with all my other friends in human rights in Chile, to carry on with this, you know, and justice, very powerful. So, of course, the Chileans that have been suffering all these things, kicked out of their work, blacklisted, torture, exile, etc., they want justice. Of course they want. We have thousands of people that is missing still, yeah? And there's no way to get the names of these, that family, you know, that suffer every day about their loved ones. So it's a big debt that they have with the Chilean people, and we don't lose faith to manage to do it in some time or in another. So that's about. I mean, there are Chilean women that every week march around the Justice of Court in Chile building, asking for the missing ones. Every week. And we go there, we accompany them, and they are still there. And there is no justice in Chile in reparation of human rights. And many other things I could tell you about.
Ernesto,